Hello there, and welcome to today's webinar from IPRA, one of our thought leadership series. Today, I'm delighted that we're welcoming a professional from Japan. It is Kazuko Kotaki, who is the Associate Director Corporate for Edelman. Kazuko Kotaki is a passionate PR veteran. She's had over 20 years of experience in consulting and media relations, and narrative development, and is particularly interested in the STEM field. She joined Edelman back in 2022 to provide business communications counsel to Edelman's clients, of course, who feature some of the world's best top brands. And there she's looking after their critical information needs. And today she'll be taking us through her approach to digital best practices and how to run hybrid media relations. She'll be talking for around about 30 to 40 minutes, after which time is your opportunity to ask her questions. I'll be fielding those for you. You can pose questions at any time in the specialist Q&A tab, which you can access at the right of your screen, just above the chat column that you see now. And I will take those for you. And if you're feeling brave enough, you can also raise your hand and we can invite you on stage to ask your question in person. So I'm going to disappear now and leave you in the capable hands of Kazuko Kotaki.
Thank you. So, hi, my name is Kazuko Kotaki. As Philip introduced me, I'm walking you through the digital PR practices, and especially in the time of hybrid. Okay, so my introduction, I'm not going to repeat what Philip said, but I've been working in the technology communications in the past more than 20 years, and I have been also supporting many of the global business communicators in my pro bono work. So I'm so delighted to speak with you at this special occasion today. So the Edelman is known for our trust barometer, which is our IP intellectual property running 23 years. And that covers this year 28 countries around the world. And we've been studying what the trust is in the four entities: government, NGOs, media, and businesses. So I will share some of the findings, especially associated with Japan, which will have a great correlation with the media relations I'll be talking about. So this is the 23rd year, as I said, and the theme of the year is the polarized world, meaning the widening, gap across the nations and the world. So what it means is that social fabric is weakening, and that is happening in Japan too. And that said, when it comes to the global data, like the trust barometer, Japanese data has been always very conservative. Like you see in the left side of the screen, the question is, about the lack of civility and mutual respect, and whether it is worsening. And the global data says, 65% of the respondents says yes. But in Japan, only 39% of people agree with that point, meaning culturally speaking and historically speaking, the Japan has, so much value in mutual respect. That is one, aspect. But as I said, Japanese data is always, on the conservative end. So people, didn't react too much about the decrease in the mutual respect. However, on the right side, you see the growing the weakness of unity and common purpose. And the answer to that in Japan is also, more than half, 56% agrees that social fabric is weakening in that sense. So the global trend of weakening social fabric and also the polarization of the society is true to Japan. And the next data shows that, as I said, the trust barometer covers four entities, and the the government, media, NGOs, they have less trust than businesses. So, but we found in the past 3 years with COVID is that the people trust for businesses have increased, and that is understandable in the context that people were so perplexed or concerned about what is the true information, what is the exact, the accurate information, etc. So people started listening to what the businesses or CEOs said. Your CEO, my CEO, their voice have been, more valued than pre-COVID. And so globally, businesses have been trusted, especially in the past 3 years. And that said, Japan has the conservative figure here again too. The businesses are trusted, beyond the three other entities. However, Japanese data is 47 compared to the 62 of global data. So Japanese respondents are being, very conservative or cautious, although the business is also the most trusted entity in Japan. And so here's the data about my employer trust. Japan is like far on the right, the second from the right. So Japan is quite low in comparative context of the employer trust, even though the trust in my employer is still high, higher than other organizations. So what it means for us, being the business communicator in Japan, is that we have to help the businesses gain more trust and CEOs speak more to be the thought leader and also the enabler of people's success. Okay, so from here I'm going to talk about the media relations, and I'll give some basic foundational knowledge about media relations and media landscape in Japan, so that you in different parts of the world can associate yourself. So when it comes to media relations, there are basically two meanings or context. In the narrow term or the specific context, we only refer to media relations, which is part of the corporate communications. In other words, in the PR section of a company, like you as a PR representative speak on behalf of your brand and have interviews with media, etc. That is a certain like PR job. But in a wider context or a social context, your like entire corporate communications, marketing communications is like part of the entire public relations. So you engage not only with media but also employees, investors, governments, and all kinds of stakeholders, social stakeholders. Okay. And press freedom. So the specific context of media relations or the PR is strongly associated with the news media. So the freedom of media or freedom of press has the significant meaning for the the news value or the news transparency, I would say. And Japan is positioned in a pretty good standard here. According to the World Press Freedom Index, the data is of 2022, and this year the new data from 2023 findings is somewhat similar. Japan was positioned to 71 in last year, and this year it has slightly degraded to 68. And at any rate, Japan has secured a certain degree of freedom in the press arena. So that means the news coming out of Japanese media have the certain news value and like reliability, trustability as the news source. And the media landscape. as I said, Japanese media is relatively, positioned well in the global press freedom research. So, like as business communicators or PR agency, PR consultant, we aggressively work with media, the credited media, highly regarded media, such as the ones I put the logos there. So key publications include the national newspapers, which are known for the highest circulation in the world. Somewhere like Yomiuri, Asahi, etc. And Nikkei is a well-known business publication, business media brand in Japan. And the most of the media have the outlets or headquarters in Tokyo. So once you are in Tokyo, you can cover the media landscape, pretty much. And the print media still have high influence over the nation, of course, with the support of online amplification. And TV news. TV has a strong influence over the daily lives of consumers, and TV also have strong correlation with print media in terms of content and also the social amplification. So all the media outlet have the mutual influence in terms of content and news generation. And for you outside of Japan may be aware of or not, Japanese language is a must to penetrate the local media and local audience. And on the right hand, I have also written several bullets for you to get to know some of the names. Like Line is the number one messaging application. So most of the consumers, especially like mothers, fathers, families, they use Line to connect with each other. And Line have the news aggregator function too. And Yahoo is the news outlet, the largest news amplifier in Japan. And when it comes to social media, Twitter has the large footprint here. Twitter population is second largest in Japan, following the US. And when it comes to media relations, journalists are open to interview, pitch, etc. So we have strong media relations with Japanese media. And the Japanese editorial room has separation from the advertising budget or advertising decisions. So we have a sound media decisions when it comes to editorial. And what's unique about Japan is we have a press club systems. So many communities or municipalities or industries, they have their own press clubs. So you have to follow the rules and regulations. And once you become the member or once you are allowed by the member media to get in and circulate your press release, etc., you will have a solid relations, and you have a solid window to the press registered in the press clubs. Okay, so here are some names of media in Japan. The national media is hard to penetrate but has a strong influence across the nation, such as TV, news agency. News agencies are the ones which feed the news, global news, local news across the nation. So they provide the news to local news outlets, the regional newspapers or local newspapers. They subscribe to the Kyoto News or Jiji News. And dailies, like I said, Nikkei, Asahi, Yomiuri, those are major dailies. They have online outlet, but they are primarily print-based. And online is, of course, has strong influence in Japan too. So news aggregator, I just mentioned some names there, Yahoo, Line. And the SNS-wise, not only Twitter, but Facebook is strong among, especially older generations, 40s and above. And Instagram has been popular among younger generation and women for, the visual savvy content like fashion, cuisine, etc. And LinkedIn is good for business professionals, which has been increasingly used by executives. I will share some examples in the later part. And business dailies, businesses like the Nikkei brand is strong. There are several other business publications like Toyo Weekly Diamond. And what's unique about business and trade publications in Japan is they have so much like specialties. They know the industry specific trend, and they know the jargon. They understand the industry and business specific issues and agendas. So for me, like the business communicators like me, we do have strong relations with uh, industry and trade media because they know the stuff, and we can discuss the news value, or what is most critical to their audiences, etc. Okay, so a very like high level, the Japanese media, their characteristics are listed here. Like they are very detail oriented. They will come into dig out small details like figures, like your revenue, profit margin, the number of headcounts, etc. So you need to have um, oh, thank you. I see like really positive comments. Well, thank you. So you better have like news facts and figures before you go talk with the journalist. And the journalists here in Japan, they want to balance. They don't go too far, far right or far left. So they need to, they want to be neutral. They go for the balanced story. So as business communicators or PR professional, you need to think pros and cons, or positive and negative side of your story before you have discussion with your target journalist. And cultural wise, and the nationwide, Japan and Japanese language too is very high in context, meaning you have to read in between lines, like what he, she, or the executive is talking about. You need to share the background to understand the full picture the spokesperson is talking about. So as business communicator, you have to prepare the details of the interviewer's background, etc. And similar headlines, meaning the competitiveness of media I just described in earlier slide, but they go after like similar headlines. And that means, as communicator, you can have a clear headline like suggestion, like this is the hard news. So what you can find out, or your takeaway means this. You can propose a certain headlines, like what you write in your press release. So your headline will work well with your respective media in Japan. And press club culture is based on the press club systems in Japan. And the beta rotation system is unique in Japan too. The fiscal year starts in April, and in April, especially with newspapers, national newspapers, especially, they change the specific industry, or their industry of their specialty in every 2-3 years. So from business perspective, you have to keep educating the new journalists. And so you always need to have your facts and figures freshly updated to keep nurturing your beat reporter. And the system is because of the intention of avoiding the corruption, or too much too close relations between business and the media. So media wants to be neutral, and they want to speak for the sake of audience and the general public. So they keep rotating, and as the business communicator, we have to keep that in mind. Okay. So I will introduce how it has changed across over the time of the pandemic. So this is a little busy slide, but I put the timeline on the, above. So in March 20th, 2020, the visa restriction was, tightened for the, closure of border. And in the same year, April 2020, the declaration of state of emergency was put in place to stop the proliferation of COVID. And about a year later, in May 21, the state of emergency was lifted. However, the COVID spread was not, stopping. So the businesses have to, and also people have to go under the very, severe restriction with the face masks, which was lifted finally in March this year. So the mask use was left to personal choice finally, and the border has fully lifted this April. And just several weeks ago, May 2023, the coronavirus was downgraded to the seasonal flu. So, across the time before the COVID, the in-person engagement was the primary measure of communications, and that was true for media relations. And all the interview, press briefing event that was held, face to face, and overseas media tour was, like big fun thing. But then with COVID, no one was able to like freely travel. So people started using the online assistance, online assisted engagement. So you'll be surprised how much increase we had, which I will show you in the next slide. So during the COVID, all the events, especially global one, became virtual, and due to the time zone, the global event was also hosted regionally in different time zone. So all such events went to virtual. And just recently, the COVID was relaxed. Then I see more increase of Japan hosted or region hosted event. I see the trend of increase. So I'll talk about the outlook in the later slide too. Yeah, here's the chart. I worked on on this slide thanks to the data I got from the volunteer, pro bono journalists, Yuko Miura-san and many others, who are keeping track of the press events and interview opportunities. I also contribute to this calendar, building the editorial calendar. So I got permission of Yuko-san to pull out the data. So before COVID, on the left hand in that white space, the yellow line means the real engagement, and the green one is the total. So in March 2019. So again, March is the month before the rotation fiscal year. So in March, we can expect that same face, same journalists can listen to your story. So you have a choice of like having your announcement in May or April. You definitely go for March because you can get to talk with the familiar faces who know your story, who know your company, who know your expertise. So I intentionally compare the data from March and October. October is a good season for businesses to host events and associated announcements. So I pulled out the data from March and October and 2019 through this March. So in 2019, all the face, like real, face-to-face real occasion was, happening as usual. Then with COVID, all the face-to-face communication went, almost zero. In October 2020, there was no real press engagement. And then there's a huge increase in online. The green thick line is the symbol, figure of the online engagement. So the online engagement, grew from 20 March 20 to 55 in October. Then in March 2021, it hit 71. So the online engagement got so much saturated. So that was a problem, among business communicators like us. So we had, we worked on the measures and engagement, the tactics, strategies and tactics, which I will share shortly. So as you can see, the numbers, goes up and down. But what is noticeable is that online had been always, over the hybrid or face-to-face real. And that is simply because hybrid is so difficult to maneuver both the online and the physical part, and that is why I'm having this occasion to share the tricks and tips. Okay, so that is the main findings. And one thing I would also notice, the October 2022, you see the red line peaked with the number 19, meaning out of 73 media engagement, 19 meaning more than 25%. Actually, this is slightly more than 26% was the hybrid engagement. So people, especially journalists, taking advantage of the hybrid nature of press engagement, and that is why we need more, like we need to educate ourselves about the benefits of hybrid. Okay, yeah, this is something to think of. When it comes to hybrid, there are so many meanings out of it. The speakers, they can be real, face to face or online. And for each occasion, you have to have certain equipment, or you may not need any equipment for speaker. But as comms, the PR professional or agency, you have to have certain equipment to enable the conversation dialogue between the speaker and the media. So that is something you need to have a clear understanding of the requirements, because the interview won't be able to happen only with speaker or only with media. You need to have a dialogue in between, and you need to be there as the enabler of the dialogue. Right, and especially what is unique about Japan, or many other countries with specific language, the local language, is the need of the interpreter and translator. Like unlike many of you in Africa or India, Japanese folks speak only like one language or two, not like 30, 40 like you smart folks are. So we need a professional interpreter or a translator to enable the conversation across language, right? And so over the time, the media relations have shifted. And what was interesting is every company, every brand started talking about experience and personalization. And the meaning, or the focus is different by the brand, your business. For technology companies, they provide the sensors or the algorithm, etc., for the personalization and experience. But for consumer brands, more like authentic feeling, or colors, etc. So different brand has different meanings. But anyways, in like segregated environment, like under Corona, people started value the experience and personalization. So that was often used in the media context. And to enable that with complex environments under hybrid and online, we had to have more and more rehearsals for our spokespeople, and provide a personalized gifting for our media friends, media uh, folks, like something like logoed comfortable cushions, or like in Japan the sauna, the hot bath was so in fashion boomed. So we discussed providing the sauna hat for journalists, etc., to have fun experience and fun memory. Yeah, this is the good part of the media relations, fun part. And so throughout the course, we realized the difficulty of face to face and the value of it. Like you feel the the people there, the the temperature, or the importance and the significance of the meeting face to face is much more than the online. So I love to go over to your place market and speak in person. So, and there's a certain benefit of online and virtual, as I have been repeating. And on top of that, we realized that the true, tension of, good tension of face to face. So I see the comeback of media tour and the in region and in Japan event. Okay, so this is also the recap. The early COVID time, the saturation of press briefing was so significant, and there were many technical issues like connection, sound issues, and time zones. And oh, one thing that was interesting was so due to the sudden, stop of physical interaction or news feed or access to the editorial rooms, many of my clients or inquiries were shifted to the marketing activities like white paper download, which is basically the advertising. So, as I said, the media relations can be, editorial, issue, but sometimes it can be like in a broader context. So when you have very limited media relations in terms of editorial, then you go for advertising or other marketing solutions, because you need to keep your business up and running. Meaning you need to keep your communications up and running. Yeah. So during COVID, as you have seen, the increase of media engagement was, created the saturation of engagements, the occasions. So there have been intense conflicts of, date and times of media briefing, etc. And so you need to be very flexible, especially you might have your spokesperson get COVID or any infections, etc. So the comms folks like us had to be very agile in terms of making changes, etc. Okay, so we have seen the trend, in Japanese market. So I will share what would happen, based on the trend in the past, COVID time. So what was also interesting was many people, many journalists also changed their careers. So the former journalists became in-house communication folks. So the like anchor person or print journalists, they became the comms professionals and also joined the agencies, etc. So your reporter may not be your reporter, but your colleague sometimes. So you need to understand the change in your counterpart. And the hybrid become like more like multifaceted, meaning not only the measure of connection or the measure of engagement, but the content is also hybridized. And more speakers are coming online on site from overseas, and you have to mix all the speakers and content in hybrid manner. You will have to. And increasing need of employee engagement, executive visibility. That is also coming from the findings in our trust barometer. I have like increasing demand for the executive visibility because we have to go over the media relations. I mean, media relations is important, but there are so many stakeholders, beyond the media relations. And employees, they are the your ambassador, brand ambassadors, and they are your future brand ambassadors. So you have to value your employees first, and have your CEOs speak on behalf of you. Because as we have seen in the trust barometer, businesses are trusted, and people want to hear from your CEO. And yeah, one more very unique and challenging issue is the chat GPT and any other generative AI. So the discussion and usage will increase in terms of generative AI. So again, the hybridization of content. So this will go beyond the simple digitalization of content, but also hybridization of content. And you also have to hybridize your content in terms of the topics. You can not only talk about your business results, etc., but you have to cover the social topics like the sustainability, ESG context. And generative AI has been so powerful, so that people have to worry about the jobs and future directions, and also we have to be very careful about the accuracy of the outcome out of generative AI, and also the legal use and ethical use of it. And we can't ignore the fact that generative AI enhance the capability in research of existing data and knowledge. And also, generative AI can advance the automation of context drafting, writing. So they might be replacing your writing, my writing, if it's like very, simple or in many different occasions. And the generative AI will also ease the trouble of some media outreach tactics. So it will be both good and bad that generative AI will have a strong influence over the media relations and your public relations. Okay. So, as I said, the executive visibility and the employee engagement is increasingly popular and needed. So we've been increasingly supporting our clients to go beyond the spokespeople with media, but also they go into digital and reach out to these stakeholders directly via their social media. So we help with audit, peer audit and landscape analysis, and we help them build their channels and build their editorial calendar, etc., and have the goal setting and evaluate. This is how we help the CEOs, have their voice reached, heard by their respective stakeholders. Okay, and there are some tips and tricks which I want to share with you. So the screen or visual wise, you have to have MC speaker audience. They all together synchronized in seamlessly integrated manner. So you have to have a clear slide, plot or slide, pagination, and prepare the speaker with proper tone, dress code, lighting. So the preparation is increasingly important. And ensure your video is on. Like sometimes or many times you see the video, like the MCs try to click video, but it's not playing. That happens. So rehearse. And the involvement of real and hybrid is so complex and it is so troublesome, much harder than the single task operation. So yeah, that's why we support our clients and also we work with multiple vendors. And the howling, the sound is so irritating sometimes. So you have to separate the interpreter, which is very much needed for non-Japanese speakers in Japan. And so stop the howling by muting microphone and speaker at the same time, and also have enough time for the equipment setting, speaker seating, and audience logging. And Philip did a marvelous job, for this occasion. Thanks to him. And the executive visibility, I keep repeating the importance of executive visibility. So the executives need to reach out to the audience via social media. So we support building selecting the right channel and building their profile in social media. And LinkedIn is the suited one for business professionals in Japan. And content calendar always helps. And white space mapping is something to help the executive stand out. And benchmarking is a proper way to help his her growth. And so importance of media relations go beyond the media. What I mean by that is event engagement, like the popular one, even from the COVID, is TED Talk, and there are many global speaking engagement and local or in market speaking engagement. So go find the proper one. Like we always help mapping which is the right one for your executives and your target audience. And we do that by having conversation with the host and also get first-hand information and research the speaker audience stack, etc. And the communication with Gen Z, their interest is much different from the older generations. And what is interesting and intriguing about Gen Z is they have strong influence over other generations, not only among themselves. So they can be the voice of the new demand or new interests. So to have a true conversation with Gen Z, you need to sharpen your topics, which we help too. Yep. So there are several cases. So we support HP, globally, and I aggressively support HP Japan. And HP is a company which has 80 years of history, headquartered in Silicon Valley, and they've been constantly innovating themselves. And in Japan, in Japanese entity, the new managing director Okado-san has been changing the business landscape to be a new leader and promote the sustainability. And earlier this year in January, they had hosted the annual media briefing that was in a hybrid form. Okado-san joined online. And this is how we run the hybrid media engagement for our brand and help them talk about the future. And Okado-san initiates the HP Future Ready strategy, and he signifies it by himself. And another example is DXI, which is Edelman Data and Intelligence. Is a part of our Edelman business. DXI is expertise on data driven communication. So this is a case where DXI supported the global management consulting company. This is in the healthcare, food and healthcare field. DXI supported, mapping the, white space and identifying the right, engagement for the company to speak up and stand out. And this is how we help the global firms and our brands to be excelled in the accessibility and the business communications. So those are high level, examples and some tips and tricks. And there are so much more in daily business communications and our daily mandate. So if you have any questions or any discussions you would like to raise, I'm more than happy to talk with you.
Well, thank you very much indeed for that wonderful presentation, particularly for sharing the detail of all that research, not only from the Edelman Trust Barometer, but also the other work you put together. I think a lot of us have learned about some of the differences in Japan. And I also like the tips and tricks you shared with us, which I think, of course, have a much wider application. And I certainly recognize some of those things that can go wrong in presentations as you were going through them and saying, watch out for them. So I invite our audience, please, to pose some questions. And in the meantime, I have a couple of my own just to kick things off. Right at the beginning, you mentioned the Trust Barometer research, and that there was quite a significant drop in what you described as mutual trust and civility in Japan. So what do you think is driving that?
So mutual, there might be some economic issues and political issues. And let me go back to the part. At the early, outbreak of COVID, the cabinet had changed, and back then the trust in politics had decreased significantly. That was, when the global trust in government was actually high. So that was a, contradictory finding in Japan. And for this question, I'm going back to the one mutual trust. This one,
That's
right?
That was the one, yeah.
Right. This is not a comparison with the prior year or prior years. This is more. This is a global comparison. So it looks like the global is 65 and Japan is 39. Huge difference, but it's actually not. Like when you see the trust barometer, it's better to see the over the time trend per specific country or region. So like Japan has been constantly low in terms of self evaluation. So I think this figure comes out of the conservativeness about the mutual respect. In that regard, yeah, Japan is like much lower than the global average. But like among Japanese, I don't see, I don't sense the the dramatic change in the mutual respect part. Has been like moderate. Like it's like common sense for us to like respect each other, so we don't like verbalize it in that sense. Yeah, thanks for asking.
So another question. You mentioned Yahoo as a news amplifier, and
Right.
I find that quite interesting because elsewhere in the world we've seen the influence of Yahoo has declined quite
Right,
a lot,
exactly.
and,
Right.
I wonder why in Japan that hasn't happened.
Right. That's because Yahoo, the founder of SoftBank, the Masayoshi Son, he bought stakes from Yahoo, headquartered in US back then, and brought the business, to Japan. That was like a couple decades ago. So ever since Yahoo has been strong in Japan, that become like almost Japanese brand in Japan. So even like seniors, like elders, they know like Yahoo is that like window for them to the internet connection, internet content that have been in the place in the past couple of decades. That is why. So yeah, it's like Twitter is strong in Japan, for some reason, but Japan has gained the second largest population in the world. And likewise, Yahoo gained the strong footage in Japan in the past couple of decades.
Right, and you mentioned Line, which is
Oh
a
yeah.
service I'm not familiar with. Is that equally popular amongst the young and the old, or is it more the young?
Has been popular among young also. Yes, young and old. Yeah, yeah. The usage, entry is different. I mean, TikTok is among young generations, but Line is among like friends and families. So
Okay.
usage pattern is different, but yeah, it's popular among young and old.
Interesting. Thank you. And finally, yeah, I think it's very interesting that we're talking about the different types of meetings and how we were, obviously doing online meetings during COVID. And then you mentioned hybrid meetings.
Right.
And I must say, I fully agree with you when you mentioned the complexity of doing hybrid meetings.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that is absolutely the case. But I just wonder, are we going to find these are the way forward, do you think, despite the difficulties in getting them right?
I do think so. Like I was in a global conference last year as host site, and we've been discussing to provide a hybrid approach because it's more inclusive. So when it comes to the inclusive context or sustainability context, we need to have a hybrid approach. It's like not only say English or Japanese, you better have the sign language, etc. This is just to have a like inclusive choice of participation. So in that sense, I think hybrid will be the always the choice and priority to think of.
Mhm. Oh yeah. Well, thank you for that. There were no more questions on the chat, so we're going to end there. Let me just let our audience know that the next month, the second Thursday, we have our July Thought Leadership webinar. That's going to be the last one before the summer. We take a break in August and we're back in September. So let me finish again, Kazuko Kotaki, by thanking you very much for a splendid presentation and teaching us all a lot about how things are done in Japan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye bye to everybody. Bye bye.
Bye.